Andy Brinkley, Chris Madsen welcoming you back to the Madsen studios. And Andy, you talk about a whale of a hockey game. This one went right down to the wire in regulation.
And a critical time, too, for a game to come down to that point, knowing that the Bruins would love to extend this lead in the series to 3-1, but a difficult task. Game 4, very important to the Canadians. They need to tie this series up.
That's right. The Bruins leading 2-1. Knuble knots it at 3. We are now in double overtime as we take you back to Bell Center in Montreal. Let's pick up the action. And Mike Sullivan and Bruins fans everywhere saying yes as Glenn Murray pots the game winner at 9:27 in the 11th longest playoff game in Boston Bruins history. As we welcome you back to our studios. And you know what, Andy, you take a look at this game in particular. Now the Bruins are up 3-1 and they're heading back home, and they always say that fourth punch, the fourth knockout, is the most difficult.
Yeah, and every player, both clubs would agree with that. But you had to be impressed with the way the Bruins came back and played in this hockey game. Down 3-1, down 3-2. The big line, the big players making contributions on the offensive side of things. Knuble with that game-tying goal. Gonchar, late acquisition by Boston. He gets involved in the offense. Nylander figuring in the first goal. Another guy that the Bruins sorely needed to play along with Samsonov. So good things happening for the Bruins here in the playoffs. Now, as you say, they have to knock this Montreal team out, and don't expect them to go away easy.
All right, that was then. This is now. Chris Madsen alongside Andy Brinkley. Welcome you back to our Madsen studios. A lot of time has passed since that magnificent playoff victory in Montreal. And, of course, everyone's been talking about the lockout and how we're going to see a whole new game in the National Hockey League. And, Andy, I want to talk to you in particular about this Boston Bruins Hockey Club. How much will the changes in this game benefit or affect this Boston Bruins Hockey Club?
Well, I think the Bruins are in excellent position. Number one, they position themselves well financially in order to have the flexibility and the cap room to go out and acquire players that were necessary to improve this Boston Bruins team by way of getting players like Brian Leetch. They lost Gonchar, but they opted for Brian Leetch instead. And that was really a question of which player was going to come in here 2 years ago when we last saw the Bruins play. I like Brian Leetch. I like what he brings. Even at 37, he's still one of the top skaters in the NHL. And they needed a defenseman that could make plays coming out of his own zone with the threat of the long pass, but the ability to see the ice. He's going to be a valuable asset. They needed a second-line center with Nylander not coming back. We saw the improvement from Sergei Samsonov when he had a centerman to play with, a guy that could dish the puck. Alexei Zamnov will give you that as well, more so than what Nylander gave you, believe it or not. He's a better player than Nylander. Then you go out and get a couple of tough guys to play against, whether it's Dave Scatchard, Brad Isbister. You throw Sean McGecken, who's still got great wheels, versatile, can play all three forward positions. So on the free agent market, Boston was able to do what they wanted to do. And how will the rule changes improve that team? Well, I think the skill level is there. The changes are designed to create more offensive flow, destroy the trap, or at least diminish the trap that's in the National Hockey League, and let the good players dictate the outcome of the hockey game. And I think with all those additions to their team, plus with Thornton Samsonov back, considering you have Raycroft back in goal and hopefully have Nick Boynton back on defense, you got the makings of a very, very strong team here in Boston.
You know what, Andy, I don't think anything changed the complexion of this game more so than the trap. So I want to talk to you about that just a little bit. In essence, the red line, with the exception of calling icings, has been eliminated in this game. For a club such as the Boston Bruins, do they have the personnel to take advantage of that new rule change?
Well, first of all, before we talk about whether the Bruins have the personnel, the fact that the trap itself should diminish is because a trap is effective when everything is done from just inside the offensive blue line on a defensive standpoint, knowing that the offensive team with the puck couldn't make a pass behind the red line. So everybody was up. You had almost 10 players in a very small area of the ice. You channel the puck, you create turnovers. That's the whole idea of the trap. Now, with the red line eliminated, you've extended that neutral zone, and the fear of the long pass, whether it's one player or two players up ice, whether it's a pair of wings or a center in a wing, now what it does is it stretches out the team defense and allows good players time and space to make plays. So I think you'll see less trapping by all teams across the board, even when they have a lead. Now, do the Bruins have the personnel? Absolutely. They're strong down the middle with Thornton and Samsonov, Scatchard, Travis Green's back in the fold. Brad Boyd's had a terrific year. Bergeron, who's an awesome player, can play center and wing, strong in the middle. Boynton, very good defenseman. Pair him with Gill. They'll play against the top offensive guys. Put Brian Leetch with a solid defensive defenseman, much the way he played with Bukaboom in New York, or throw him with Yuri Slager when you want to go offensive and you need offense. So, yeah, I think the personnel is there for Boston, and they have the ability to move the puck, and it's just a matter of, crossing all their T's and dotting all their I's.
Would you agree, though, that for the average hockey player right now, the bigger change, the bigger adjustment is going to be on the defensive side of the puck than the offensive side of the puck?
No, I think the emphasis will be on trying to create offense. I think teams will be rewarded not so much for mediocrity the way they have over the past decade. It's going to be really the rules and the insistence on calling penalties that are penalties and supporting the referees that will lead teams to really concentrate on the offense. So it's going to be imperative that you have a good goaltender. You're going to give up scoring chances. It's how you come out of your zone and what you do with the scoring chances that you get.
How big of an adjustment is it going to be, though, at the goaltending position? I mean, they're looking at everything right now. They're looking at puck control, when you can freeze the puck, and obviously the size of equipment is going to be reduced.
Yeah, I think putting limits on what the goaltenders can do as far as handling the puck, I think it will be pretty consistent on how it will affect goaltenders across the league, with the exception of the more talented guys like Marty Brodeur, okay, or Rick DiPietro. But I think more importantly will be the streamlining of the equipment. To the naked eye, you're going to see these goaltenders who won't look that much different. There'll be a little bit more net to see, but because they still need to be protected, the padding will be there. I think it's the other rules now, all in conjunction with one another, that frees up and gives you that flow that you're looking for, the unimpeded flow that allows the good players to be the best players on the ice. And I think that's what you'll really take notice of, not so much the goaltender's equipment.
All right, you said the padding would be there. Now the big question. Will the fans be there? Now, you were down, I'm sure, at the Garden today. The Bruins opened up training camp under Mike Sullivan, and I'm just curious, your gut feeling. Will the game be better? Will the fans be satisfied with the quality of the game? And will the fan come back?
I do. And I won't say in the long run, but I also won't say immediately. I think it'll be somewhere in between. I think particularly here in Boston that the fans will come back. I think that there's a lot to be excited about with this team. And the fact that the Bruins play one home game before they go on the road for 6, I expect a very good opening night crowd. And then, of course, you need to win in order to solidify the crowds coming back. But I think the product itself on the ice really has an excellent chance for a rebirth, not only in Boston, but across the board. Yes, there will be teams that will struggle to bring their attendance back, some of the newer teams in the league, but I think the original 6 and teams that have had a long tradition, history of hockey, they will be fine. But the players, managers, owners, everybody realizes that they need to go the extra mile to bring the fan back, and I think they're all on the same page.
You know, and Andy, I think you hit the puck right on the head. I, too, agree that in those dyed-in-the-wool traditional markets, hockey will be just fine, continue to thrive. You take a look at some of the more non-traditional hockey markets, such as an Anaheim, a Phoenix, maybe even a Nashville or a Carolina, and they're going to have a little bit of a marketing challenge ahead of them. But before we go, I do want to ask you one more question, and that is, with this Boston Bruin club in particular, and you as a former player, is it time from the athlete's perspective to even give more of themselves back to the fan, to extend themselves further?
I think if we were talking about maybe the other top 3 sports, I would be adamant about saying yes. But I think hockey players in general are very giving with their time. They fly under the radar a lot of times. They don't look for that personal recognition when they do make differences in people's lives. But this time, conversely, they have to get the media behind them in their efforts that they are out there trying to bring the fan back, be more fan-friendly, be interactive, and be everything that they can be as far as what the fans want them to be, and allow television and radio and beat writers to really build personalities in the sport, because that's what it's missing.
Well, Andy, it's been a pleasure working with you here this afternoon, and I know that you and Dale are looking forward to the opener against Montreal.
My pleasure, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Andy Brinkley. Again, it's the Bruins and the Canadiens here on Madsen coming up on October the 5th. Be sure to catch the pregame show at 6:30, followed with the call of the action with Dale Arnold and Andy Brinkley, beginning with the drop of the puck at 7 p.m. And so for Andy, I'm Chris Madsen. Hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, take care.